Barra, explaining their very passionate position and request that they the company finds ways to keep jobs in Ohio, specifically that Lordstown plant, where the workers have up to 53 years of experience. I want to bring in Swiss America Chairman Craig Smith to discuss this. We know there's a lot of things going on here. We know Americans aren't buying cars, specifically GM cars. By the same token, though, there's a lot of frustration. This company in their last earnings report netted $2.5 billion. A year earlier, they lost almost $3 billion. The change, the tax cuts. Americans see corporations getting these fat tax cuts, and what they seem to be getting in return from some of them are job cuts.
Is exactly right, Charles, and here's a perfect example of what happens when you have a CEO.
Sir, let's listen to Mary Barra for a second.
For them to be able to transfer or to consider.
What if they want to stay in the places they are, like Youngstown, Mahoney Valley? What about my friends and family, my 1,500
Barra,
workers?
could you use those plans for your new production line?
Christmas.
One of the things that we...
Sir, we're asking questions on behalf of the taxpayer. She's not being able to answer. Ma'am, would you consider using those plants for new production lines?
We have many plants across the country. In fact, we are launching 5 major new products next year in plants in the United States. One of the things we're working on is to try to increase the capacity utilization of each of our plants so we can be efficient. That allows us to invest more in the country. So, right now, these plants are unallocated. We'll work with our UAW partners to work through that process. But right now, as I said, it's incredibly difficult to make these types of decisions, so our focus is on the GM team members that are impacted, making sure they understand all of their opportunities, and then also looking at what are the retraining opportunities as well. That is our focus right now.
Is the Lordstown plant a done deal at this point for all the workers they're wanting to know?
The Lordstown plant is an unallocated plant. We have a contract with our UAW, and it's very important that we respect that and work through that contract.
Are you worried about the consequences from Washington if you don't make any changes, if these legislations move forward?
I think where we're focused right now is on the workers. We have a very strong automotive presence in Ohio. We have several plants, and I think about 4,000 workers in addition to what we're talking about now. There are some of the facilities in Ohio that will have jobs available as well as we move forward. So we are trying to do the right thing. We think Ohio is a very important auto state. We have a very good workforce there, and we have a tremendous amount of workers in the state that will continue.
And the president said that he would cut off subsidies. Any concern?
Right now we are in an industry that is transforming faster than I've ever seen in my 38-year career, and we're trying to make sure that General Motors is strong and that we're in a leadership position in the technologies like electrification, like autonomous vehicles, like connectivity, because that's what customers want. That's where the industry is going, and a strong General Motors is the best way for me to provide and maintain the 90,000 plus jobs that we have across the United States, and not in addition to all the people who have retired from General Motors and their pensions. And so we're working very hard to make sure General Motors is around for several decades in a leadership position, can provide jobs and support the communities and the stakeholders that are involved with the company.
Why you benefited from a massive, you benefited from a bailout. Man, you benefited from a bailout from the taxpayers. You've also got a really big tax cut in the last year. Do you owe the people of the country more than this decision?
Yeah. Since 2009, we have invested $22 billion in the United States. And in the last couple of years, we've invested several more $1 billion, and we'll continue to do that. We will be forever grateful for the assistance that the U.S. government provided General Motors, and we're trying to make sure we're good corporate citizens and continue to provide jobs and provide vehicles and transportation that customers want in this country. That's what I think can be the most responsible thing that we can do to thank the American taxpayers for what they did for us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
General Motors CEO Mary Barra answering a barrage of questions. The last one, do you think you owe the American people more? I want to go back to Swiss America Chairman Craig Smith. Sorry, Craig, I have to cut you off, but we got a chance to hear from both sides now, and your thoughts.
Yeah, no problem, Charles. This is a perfect example of what happens when you see corporate America be more concerned about tax cuts and subsidies than they are about what their customers want in the showroom, Charles. I mean, think about it. This is a direct result of Mary Barra spending too much time in the Obama Oval Office getting subsidies for her electric cars that nobody wants. And now I applaud Mary Barra. I mean, she's making a very tough decision, Charles. She went and got all these subsidies, and now she's going back and biting the hand that feeds her, so to speak, with Donald Trump. But she has to do this now if she's going to put General Motors on a track to be able to survive like she talked about in that press conference 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, Charles.
She does.
So
now,
this isn't surprising.
Pose this to you then, because I looked at their last earnings report very closely, and a couple of things did stand out. In addition to this, to the money that they made versus the money they lost a year earlier, they had the highest average selling price ever, right? So that was good. They lost market share in every component, but it does show that people are willing in this country to buy their more expensive products. I guess the question here is, how much of a hit is this company willing to take to the bottom line, to use Mary Barra's own words, to be a good corporate citizen? Sherrod Brown mentioned bringing some jobs back from Mexico. You heard Rob Portman saying, hey, you've got these folks who have the skill set, work on the products that people want. I agree with you. They were flat-footed. I mean, the idea that autonomous cars just happened overnight is nuts. They should have been ready, and they should have been making products people want. But they're in a pickle right now, and it's not just an economic pickle. It's a political pickle.
Absolutely. You just hit the nail on the head, Charles. There's politics involved here right now because there's subsidies and taxes and so on and so forth. And I think this is what Mary Barra has to deal with. She has to deal with the fact that she's a car company that is highly involved with technology, so she needs to embrace that, while at the same time realizing that she has to hire people to turn wrenches in a factory. It's a tough challenge, Charles, but I think it's an important one. It can be done. And look, I commend Fox on this. Back in 2011, Matt Kibbe wrote an article for you guys. He basically said it's going to end this way. Subsidies don't work, Charles. When are we going to go back to saying the free market is the answer to these problems, not subsidies and tax breaks,
and the
Charles?
bailouts with the strings attached certainly didn't help their competitive position. Craig, thank you very much for rolling with everything. Appreciate your expertise.
Good seeing you, Charles.
Now we want to go to Republican Wyoming Senator John Barrasso. And Senator Barrasso, I just got to ask you about